I want to talk about not just becoming a millionaire and making seven figures. I want to talk about the habits of people that are at the next level. Because if you want to make seven figures, you have to think and act right now like you're making seven figures. If you want to make six figures and you're making five, you can't think and act like a five-figure earner. I'll never forget my first summer when I went out with my company. We all were saying our goals, and I was a little bit cocky and I had ego, and I'm like, oh, we're going to do 400. I think I've told the story somewhere before in the past, but my goal was like 480 or 450, $450,000 for the summer. This was back when I was like 22, 23. And everyone's like, that was the biggest goal. Everyone's like, you're going to do 450,000 your first summer? That's crazy. So I was like, I'm doing it. And I was confident. I was excited. Fast forward, I think I did 120 something thousand, lost money, didn't do well. And a couple of years later, thinking back, I was thinking and acting and portraying every day, showing up like a $120,000 summer manager. I was thinking and acting like someone that wasn't crushing it in business. Fast forward 2 summers, we did almost $800,000 in the summer, and same territory, same me, same office and everything, but we did $700,000 more, and I worked half the time. I was happier, more peace of mind. But the only difference is I was thinking and acting like an $800,000 manager. Even though I wasn't yet, every decision was, what would a $800,000 manager do? So for you guys, what would a seven-figure earner do? If you're making money, if you're not making the money you want, you have to start thinking and acting like someone who's already making the money you want. So if you want to make 10 million a year, or have your company be at 10 million a year, Chelsea, you want to get to 5 million a year next, probably 7 million, 10 million. You have to think and act and operate like that type of person. So I was thinking and acting like a millionaire years before I was close to seven figures, right? And now being a millionaire is still really rare in our society. Less than 3% of people have a seven-figure net worth. Many work their entire lives and never reach that status. Now, a lot of people do validate, and they say things like, I don't need money. I don't care about money. Millionaires aren't happy. I don't need that. I don't want to be greedy. And I'm sure there's 50 other validations people have, right? But you don't make $1 million by accident. You don't get the seven figures just like one day you wake up, oh, I'm at seven figures now. It really does take strategy. It takes intention. It takes focus. But if you know these hacks and habits, you can get there a lot quicker. And let me make this comment very clear. It's not about the million. It's about who you become in the process. Take away $1 million from any millionaire on the planet, they're getting it right back because they knew how to get it. Why do lottery winners, I think 75% plus, go broke within 3 to 5 years? Because they didn't actually earn it. They got something for nothing, right? So millionaires, if you earn it, you always have that mental capacity. You always have the grit and the bounce. Bounce is how far you can come back up when you are in a downfall, right? You have that grit and bounce. You have the experience. You'll always be able to make it back, right? That's the goal. That's the best thing you can do for yourself, for your business, as a leader, as a mom, as a dad, as a friend, as a brother, sister, is develop yourself enough to where you are irreplaceable, right? So this really isn't about just making more money. It's about interrupting the belief systems that a lot of people have that can help you propel forward to build real wealth, right? Becoming a millionaire while building a world-class life is the goal. That's the focus. So the goal here is figuring out which ones you're executing and which ones you're not. Now, could we talk about 1,000 millionaire habits? Of course, right? But I'm gonna talk about ones that all new age millionaires that I see, that I've been around, that I've interviewed and studied, are doing right now, right? That I've really paid attention to in the last couple of years. So there's 8, I think, and there's a couple little subtopics that I'll talk about after. And I'm gonna kind of go through these a little quicker. You guys can watch the replay, but I just wanna give you guys the common themes, and then you need to figure out like, wow, I am totally not doing that. Wow, I'm totally doing this. I'm on track, right? First thing, millionaires and new age millionaires, they move people. Like they move people. They always feel like they're leading a movement. Every interaction, every piece of content, every relationship that they're in, that they're building, every meeting, they are making a statement. They are increasing people's emotional frequency. like they are bringing massive energy and massive emotion to every conversation and to every single piece of content they put on. So never be boring, right? Focus on amazing headlines, create amazing content, but that's the biggest key to business is bringing energy and moving people. Every time you talk, you got to be in the zone. Now, millionaires can also get themselves in the zone like this. Worst day ever. Nothing's going their way. Family tragedy. And this is tough. You might be like, family tragedy? You still have to be in the zone? Sometimes when you're in a leadership role, the toughest things can happen to you. It's not about you. It's about the people you impact. Scary. Most people can't handle that, which is why they like staying small, right? But you have to be able to move people, and on the worst day ever, get on camera and act like things are amazing sometimes. Now, in entrepreneurship, it's sometimes good to be vulnerable too, but when you're vulnerable, you also have to show emotion. So my point is, millionaires are always moving people. They're never just like, okay, what's next? They're never boring. I was talking to Robert Herjavec when I was speaking at Thrive a couple of years ago. He was speaking right after me. And he was saying on TV, they can make you like bigger, smaller. They can make you this, they can do makeup. They can do all kinds of stuff. They can do almost anything on TV, but they can't fix boring. And I'm like, that's a really good point. And I'll never forget that conversation, but you have to make sure that you're understanding the presence. Whoever's the most present in the situation is the most influential. And whoever's the most certain has the most influence. Let me say that again. In a conversation, in a meeting, whoever is the most present has the most influence in that conversation. Whoever is the most certain about what's going on has the most influence. Okay? That's why it's hard to persuade a successful millionaire. They've heard it all. They don't get sold off hype. They get sold off facts and actual data and tactics and who somebody is, right? A lot of people are persuaded very easily. Millionaires aren't. So here's some ways to move people. Find an enemy or something that frustrates you that you want to talk about, right? Find an enemy in your space. Find things that frustrate you sometimes and share those things. You'll get a lot of people that relate to you, right? So what really, really bugged me coming up, and these are things that I didn't think about in the moment, like what bugs me? These are things that made my blood boil as I thought about them. One of the things is speakers, when I was coming up, I don't want to say names, but speakers would do the same speech over and over again for 20 years, and they'd have the same speech online, and everyone's already heard their speech, but they'd never change it because they're getting paid so much. And I feel like they're cheating people, and they're not pushing themselves and challenging themselves and expanding their capacity to do the same thing because they're making money doing it. I feel like they're cheating their audience. Now, that might not be the case, but that's what I believe. I can't stand speakers who do the same speech. I want to switch my speech up all the time for the audience, for people watching. Imagine me giving the same content every call, right? You wouldn't like that. So I hate when a lot of people do that in our industry. Now, are they bad people? No, that's just what frustrates me. If you're like, oh, I like the speakers that give the same speech, great. But this is something that frustrates me. People that aren't world-class, you know this. People that are not world-class, people that work 100 hours a week and they have hundreds of millions of dollars, but they miss all their kids' soccer games. Now, you could respect and love that person, but for me, that bugs me. That's just me though, right? Because I value world-class over other things. So that frustrates me. You've heard me go on rants about that kind of stuff, right? I can't stand people that have a platform that waste it. That's why I respect Mark Wahlberg. Jessica Alba has something that gives back. Leonardo DiCaprio is trying to change the planet and shift the culture and get rid of all the stuff that's going on with the Amazon rainforest and global warming, all these things. He doesn't even do any more movies. His whole obsession is to help the earth. That's pretty cool because he's using his platform wisely. But there's a lot of people that have millions and millions of followers and they waste it by fulfilling their ego versus actually giving back, right? So that stuff frustrates me when you have a big platform, but you don't use it for good or to help people. So when I share those things, some people will go, man, he's being dramatic. I don't care about that. And they probably won't follow me. Some people will go, I like that. I like that Peter doesn't value that stuff. I like him even more than other speakers. That's why I'm going to follow him, right? So I get passionate right now about that stuff. But it's better than me not being controversial at all and just saying, yeah, I agree with everybody, right? You've got to have, like I say, a polarizing point of view, which is next. But say what you're thinking. Say what people are afraid to say sometimes, right? A polarizing point of view will offend people. Like you said, Chelsea, you don't like offending people. Trust me, they will respect you more for taking a stand. Polarizing points of views offend people, but they separate your market into believers and loyal fans and non-believers. It's always better to be loved or hated than tolerated. I will always say that because people still don't understand it. It's better to be loved or hated than tolerated. Every successful person you know, every legend that has reached like pinnacle status, they have a lot of haters, but half the world loves them and like are super loyal to them, right? So millionaires are sometimes controversial, but they move people. They might rub people the wrong way, but they're not gonna stand still and they're not gonna be quiet when something bugs them because they're scared of what people will think. Martin Luther King, right? Muhammad Ali, Tupac, these people like stood for something. Number 2, for ways to move people, be passionate and polarizing. So what will you be known for? I would challenge you guys to think about a couple things in your content that you'll be known for. Like what are something where you like hear that and they're like, oh, that's Chelsea. Oh, that's Stephanie. Oh, that's Adam. Talking about that, that's Adam. Oh, talking about 6 months, 6 figures, that's Peter. Knowing yourself, oh, that's Peter. Right? So keep that in mind. Figure out what you want to be known for. Mastery versus overload. There's little things, little riffs and little rants that I have that I could go off on at any time. What are some stories? What are some tactics? What are some things that mean a lot to you that if someone would just ask you about it, you could literally do a video or a rant on for like 5 minutes straight? That's a huge key. You need to have a couple of those things. And usually they're things that do frustrate you sometimes, right? Energy explosion, networking breakthrough. One of my recent ones has been world-class. Another recent one is understanding the power of lifestyle and peace of mind and flexibility. Like you couldn't pay me $100 million to take away all my peace of mind, all right? And understanding that I know people, and this came from pure experience and pure actual being in the trenches with these kind of people, where I know their net worth is 700 plus million and I know how miserable they are. Then I talk to someone who's making 75 grand a year with a great family, happy as heck, loving their life. So who's really ahead? 700 million, stressed out, frustrated. 75K, loves their life. So I used to be like, oh, you always gotta make money. Now I'm like, well, you just wanna be happy and make sure you're progressing and make sure you're always challenging yourself. But it's really about building a business on your terms and building a lifestyle that inspires you, that you're proud of, that allows you to do what you want and travel. But once again, that's me, okay? So I'm not gonna say something I don't believe just to attract a bigger audience. That's not how it works. That's why millionaires are so glued into who they are. They attract the people similar or the people that respect them for who they are. So you've got to figure out a couple things that you want to be known for, right? Under this, tell personal stories that share breakthroughs. You want to be intentional. You don't want to speak unless it improves the silence. Millionaires are very, I don't want to say quiet, but they only speak when they feel like it's something intelligent. They don't really speak out of turn. They listen more than they talk, and they're very articulate. How articulate have you been when you speak, when you post, when you have conversations, sharing your business? There's a guy that reached out to me that someone else knew that I knew. So I gave him a message back, and he's like, I got a business, it's gonna blow up, this. And I go, email me simplified details of your business. He emails me like 4 paragraphs. I just can't say it in the email. It's just too big. I'm like, if Elon Musk can share his companies in 1 sentence and you can't share yours in an email, then I don't want to be a part of it. You have to learn to simplify, right? And then he obviously didn't know what to say, but I challenged him, because if you can't share your business in like 1 sentence or a simplified paragraph, it's too complicated, right? So tell personal stories, but be strategic. Be entertaining, and of course, never boring. So that's how you move people. So millionaires move people. They spark people's emotional frequency. I bet you there's been a time in the past, I don't know when, I bet you there's been a time in the past where I have shifted your emotional state, where I've said something that either made you frustrated or got you super inspired to take action. I don't know what it was, but I bet you that's happened, which is why you're on this call. And I bet you there's been people you follow that maybe have put out a couple videos and they're still holding back So they come off a little bit bland in a way, and you're like, yeah, I don't need to follow them. Once again, nothing wrong with those people, but you got to make sure you're moving people. Like, you got to make sure you put a passion and energy into it. And every time you are connecting with somebody in a meeting, every time you're putting out content, you get yourself in the right state of mind. All right. Next thing, millionaires have a solid platform. They pick a platform and they streamline from there. So you need to figure out what your platform is going to be. Is it video? Is it going to be Facebook video, Facebook Lives? Is it going to be a podcast? Is it going to be a book? Is it going to be a blog? I don't know. Find the best communication channels. You should only have one primary at first, right? So maybe it's YouTube, maybe it's Instagram. But if you try and do 15 at once, you're going to be average at all of them. So we started with just an actual website doing blogs every day. Then we did select few Saturdays on YouTube, caught some traction, and then we focused on the podcast. So we strictly did the podcast. Then we had the book out, and that was our main platform to get across what we got across. Now we have, the main thing is the podcast, but I record it, right? And then I streamline it. I take the audio and use it as a podcast. And then I take snippets and swipe ups, create those for Instagram. I post the videos on Twitter. I post the videos and the highlights on Facebook. Then I have an entrepreneur pick them out and share as well. But it's all from me having one platform of video that's turned into every other platform. So millionaires have a solid platform. And some it's Twitter, some it's Facebook, right? Some it's email marketing. You have to figure out kind of what your platform is to get your message out there, or to share your product or service, or to attract the right people. Right? A lot of people are using Facebook ads, but you don't want to be one-dimensional, where what happens if something happens to Facebook ads? I know a lot of people that their business would literally go under if Facebook changed their algorithms or stopped working. They would be screwed because they're not diversifying. So find a platform, but also don't have it be just dependent on that company, right? So that's a big key. Number 3, millionaires are authentic, transparent, and extremely hard to persuade. The easier it is to persuade you and manipulate you, the closer you become to mediocrity. So this is a huge key. They're very authentic, transparent, but they sell themselves so hard on the front end. They have such a filter when things come to them that they make sure that when they do take something on, they're fully sold on it, and they understand that most people do not sell themselves as much. Most people love hype. Most people love vision and talking, but not executing on the back end. So they're really hard to persuade because they know how much time they put in to actually selling themselves on what they do. So we can add a asterisk or a subject here below. Millionaires are authentic, and they are always selling themselves before they take anything on. So what are you fully sold on that you're doing right now, and what are you not sold on? Right? That's a huge key. What are you sold on and what are you not sold on? They also don't fear people. So do you care what people think about you? It shouldn't matter if you really stay true to yourself. And if you had a smear article written about you, if you had a lot of haters on a video, if something happened and it doesn't affect you, you really do know yourself. But if it affects you, you're like, oh my gosh, then you got to dig deeper and really, really understand who you are and what you stand for. And if you have pure intentions, and you know you're a good person, when you look in the mirror, when no one's looking, you know you have great intentions. You know you have genuine, thoughtful compassion for people or for your business. You know what you're doing is the right thing. It's hard to let others affect you, right? And I've just seen it in a lot of my millionaire friends where they're so on purpose, they're so on their mission and their movement that it doesn't even get to their radar when someone hates on them. It doesn't even affect them. They could have an idea. They can have a vision for their business. Elon Musk is the best in the world at this. Steve Jobs was great at this too. It's like they could have a vision, and a 1,000 of their closest people. This is actually more of a billionaire habit, but 1,000 of their closest people could say, "That's a bad idea. Don't do that. You're going to go in debt. Don't do that. You're going to go bankrupt. Don't do that." And they're like, "Okay, thank you." It doesn't even get in their brain space. They still do it because their gut says to do it. And they have this intuition that they always follow. And They might take 7 risks and they might start 7 businesses, or they might do 7, 8 things and fail at 4, but the 3 they did do, they made $20 million doing it, right? So they keep their options open. They're authentic and they're transparent, but they're very, very hard to persuade, and they don't fear people. Okay, that's a huge, huge key. The goal is to get so good at your craft that you become irreplaceable and the marketplace has to reward you, right? You can't ignore greatness. The goal is to get so good that you become so valuable that you're in high demand. You can charge more, you can raise your price. This takes a lot of time, focus, and energy, but if you can add more value to anybody else, then that's when you let your work speak for you. Let your testimonial speak for you. Let your customer speak for you. There's an entertainer named Russ. Have you guys heard of him? He's an artist, independent, built a lot of things. He does all his mixing, mastering, production, the beats, the singing, and he's blowing up, making 7 figures, just paid for a $500,000 house for his parents. He doesn't need help from big record labels. Like, there's walk-ons in the NBA that didn't even get drafted, that didn't even go to a big college, that are crushing in the NBA. Tom Brady was the last pick in the NFL draft. Results always speak for people, right? You can't make up for your lack of results with words. So millionaires understand that they have to not only be transparent and hard to persuade, they have to be really good at what they do. So if there's a coach in the NBA that has no results, there's a coach that no one knows about, but he keeps on winning, no one cares about his past. No one cares if he has no experience because he's winning so much, right? So results usually are the name of the game, and you got to understand that. This leads me into the next one. They are very competitive. They want to kick their competitors' butt. They want to win, but they've focused so much time on their craft that they become ahead of their competition, and they kind of separate themselves from the competition because they're so obsessed with improvement. I've noticed this like crazy. They want to win, but they don't really focus on the competitors anymore. They focus on themselves. They compare themselves to who they were yesterday. If you want a really good message on how to set benchmarks for yourself every week and hit those and not even focus on your competitors, the talk that we did with Patrick Bet David was amazing. So you guys should listen to that one if you want something that focuses on millionaire benchmarks, on how to set the right benchmarks that are congruent to 7 figures. He did a great talk on that. So for you, what benchmarks are you setting? And are you looking at your journal? Are you looking at your journal every single week and saying, how was last week? How were the results, right? Okay, I made 61 calls last week. I'm gonna make 62 calls this week. You wanna set a culture in your business of progress over perfection. You wanna set a culture in your business that nobody knocks progress, doesn't matter how slow it is. I was talking to Kevin, one of the game changers. He's in Bali right now. He's 20 years old, just bought a Tesla, crushing it, making 13, 14 grand a month. Doing sales, building a sales team. He had, I think, 3 salespeople when he came on the academy before Inner Circle, and now he has 25 people on his sales team, just crushing it. But he's talking about how a lot of people that are young, they make so much money quick, but they don't care about the money, and they just like kind of stop working because they have enough. So I taught him how to share the standards and culture of what he wants repeated. Whatever you talk about gets repeated. Whatever you recognize gets repeated. So I used to say in my sales team, and this is also a trait millionaires have, is progress over just results. I have more respect for somebody, and I would like announce this in the team. I'd say, I have so much respect for Stephanie. She sold $700 last week, $800 this week, or let's say 3 weeks ago. She sold $800 2 weeks ago, $1,000 last week, and $1,200 this week. What an amazing month. The progress has been amazing, from 0 to 500 to 6 to 7 to 1,000 to 12. Super consistent, progressing every single week, beating her best. I have more respect for her than someone selling 5,000, 10,000, 4,000, and 0. You may say, wait, they sold like 20 something thousand. She only sold like 2,000 or 3,000. Doesn't matter. I respect progress and people betting on themselves every week and trying to better their best. Not people that just do things that are random and have enough money and quit. I respect her because she's continuing to progress. So that's why it's so important to recognize progress, but also to talk about it and yourself execute it, right? Just get better every single week at what you do. If you made amazing videos last week, try to make a little bit better one this week. What you don't want to do is go backwards, right? I think millionaires understand the importance of momentum. I think they understand the scariest things in the world are momentum and lack of, right? So keep that in mind. So make your business invincible. Here's 4 ways to kick butt and kick your competitor's butt, but focus on yourself. Double your competitor's offer and double the value. You have to take the short end of the stick a lot. Give more than you expect. Outwork your competition, not just with hard work, but with intelligence and with strategy, right? Millionaires zig when everybody else zags. So make sure you stand out. That's a huge key. Whether it's product delivery, whether it's the pricing, whether it's the graphic design, whether it's the customer service, just over deliver, right? There was a Jim Rohn, like a story he told about like workers that were working minimum wage, and most workers wanted more money, but they did bare minimum. The only way to get up is to do more than you're paid for. That's the only way to level up when you really think about it. If you do bare minimum, you're never going to get the money. So that's why whether you're making 15 an hour, 50 an hour, whether you make 10 grand a month, 20 grand a month, 50 grand a month, try to do more than you're paid to do. And eventually you become more valuable. And that's how you level up, right? Next, millionaires know their target audience, who they're trying to help. They know what their biggest problems are. They know their pain points. It's the law of the specialist, right? Specialized knowledge is the new currency, the new game changer. How can you narrow down your market even further, right? Keep your message simple, but try not to be for everybody. So here's all you got to answer. What are your ideal clients' biggest pain points? And what are their biggest desires? How can you get rid of their pain points and help them get to their desires faster? So a lot of your guys' pain points that I know, doing everything yourselves, right? You're overloaded. You got into business to have freedom, but now your business runs you because you're not delegating or hiring properly. Also with millennials, too much information, not enough execution. They're overloaded with information, right? And they don't have the right network. Biggest desires, they want to impact more people. They want more financial freedom, and they want to build a life and a business on their terms that has complete autonomy. That's most of you guys, right? So in the academy, we want to attract people that have a deep desire to help people and impact people. I tell some people that I have calls with before they get accepted, if they're accepted, we want people that if they somehow won or made $100 million next month, they wouldn't quit and live on an island and do nothing. I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in people that if they made $100 million, not much would change. They would continue building things that outlast them. They would continue impacting and inspiring. They would continue doing things to further the vision and the culture, right? That's the people that we want. So millionaires know their target audience. Do you know yours? 6, millionaires shut up and listen, and they give their people what they want. So customers are marketing geniuses. Millionaires listen and understand. This is a lot of the big new age companies, right? They are listening. They know exactly what their customers want, sometimes before the customers even know. They know about convenience. They know about like the DoorDashes, and these companies know what people want, right? Before the people even want it sometimes. So pay attention, survey your list, go to discussion forums, look at negative reviews, join groups on Facebook, keywords, YouTube, like look at that kind of stuff. Do your due diligence. 7, millionaires understand the purpose of business, right? This is what really builds longevity and loyalty. So you guys know this, but are you executing that the purpose of business is creating raving fans? It's not about you. You got to be off yourself and on purpose. Millionaires know whether they get up in the morning and they feel like crushing it or not, that's kind of irrelevant because they have to perform and they have to get results and they have to execute and they have to over deliver for their customers and their clientele. So understand the purpose of business is not to, you'll have some people say the purpose of business is to get wealthy and get rich. That's great. That's not my purpose. The purpose is to create amazing raving fans. The more raving fans you have, the more success you can have. And then Millionaires work in their area of genius. Know what you're worth, know what your strengths are. So there's a talk in the Academy of time management talk. It helps you figure out exactly what your time is worth per hour. If your goal is 100K this year, if your goal is 500K this year, it tells you what your time's worth an hour. So now you have to measure that number against everything that comes across your desk, right? And then figure out things you shouldn't be doing, things you can't do, and things you don't want to do, and delegate properly, right? You got to master the low-hanging fruit. So you have to figure out what platform makes you money. That should be your number one focus, because remember, business is business. So you might not love what you do, but in order to get to at least the six-figure mark, you got to make some sacrifices and get over the love what you do and just master the low-hanging fruit and crush it, whether it's sales, marketing, whether it's working at a 9-to-5, whether it's a high-paying sales job, I don't know. But you have to have a platform where you're maximizing that. So you're investing that money into your side business to where you're finally going to have that business that produces the longevity, the lifestyle, the success. But you've got to know that what stage you're at in your business as well. So that should be your focus, is building up your strengths and figuring out what you want to go all in on and what you want to do that you love doing, and then delegate everything else. I would never, it doesn't matter how big we get, I will never delegate these kind of calls because I love doing this. This fires me up, right? It wouldn't make sense for me to delegate that or delegate workshops or delegate me speaking because I love doing that. But the editing and some of that stuff, I'm always going to delegate because I don't like doing that and I'm not good at it, right? Huge key. So mixed in here with the integrity, and there's a book, The Millionaire Mind, that I want to read. They did a massive study, and this was from 96. So obviously things change a little bit, but here's the biggest success factors for millionaires. Number 1 was integrity, being honest with people. Number 2 is discipline, applying self-control. 3 is social skills, networking, getting along with people. 4 is a supportive spouse. That's a game changer. 5th is hard work, more than most people. Hard work is still very important, but I think leverage and paying for speed and maximizing your unique ability is almost just as important nowadays, right? But those are the trends. And then emotional resiliency is a huge key. I think bounce, how quick you can bounce after you go through a challenge, I think is a huge part of being a 7-figure earner. So like thinking about all the tough times, like the lowest point in your life, how'd you bounce back from that? Millionaires go through the biggest challenges, but they bounce back, right? That's a huge key. They're obsessed, they have deep daily practice, but they bounce back from anything, right? And they use their mental toughness to be resourceful to get out of whatever situation they're in. So I'm not gonna dive too much more. Those are the 8 things.